right, so I'm here with Jacob Scroggs, who is, and did I say that right?
Yes, Scroggs.
Okay, Scroggs.
Right.
Okay, who's the current king of the road with the fastest time coast-to-coast motorcycle ride. Said it a year and a half ago. You said it was August of 23, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there? Okay, and the bike again was a
22 Ultra Limited.
22 Ultra Limited Harley, right? And you were saying mileage-wise, before we got goofed up on the audio there, that about the best you can get on that is like upper 20s or so on that?
Somewhere in there, yeah. But when you're riding fast, you know, it goes way down for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And then you start adding weight to it if you're like when you do the gas and all that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because with fuel injection, you'd think it'd be even a little bit higher. I know, surprisingly, that old bike of mine, the 77 FLH I had, I didn't have all the big heavy bags. I had just leather bolt-on bags, but I would get close to 50 miles a gallon with that thing, just being an old SU carburetor on it. And I mean, it was the only good quality performance-wise of that whole machine was the mileage on it. And I geared it so it would be, you know, not vibrating so bad, so I could at least do, you know, 80s or so buzzing down the highway on it. But then your capacity on the tank is 6 gallons, or?
Got a 6-gallon stock tank on it, and I had made for me 2 auxiliary tanks, 2 4.5-gallon tanks that go on my saddlebags.
Okay, so you had 6, 4.5,
So I got
15 total. Okay, so how many miles did you get between gas stops then?
So I could get up to about 350 at a fast rate, you know.
Okay, that's about what I was doing or so.
Now I've never tried it, and one day I will. I'd really love to get on it, 3 tanks full, and like do 70 miles an hour, just see how far I can stretch it out. But
yeah.
But running fast, about 350.
Okay, sounds good. Did you contemplate like putting, that's belt and pulley, I'm sure, on this one, right?
It's not. Is, and that's the hard thing about a Harley. I would love to do some gearing on it, you know, but not really a whole lot of options, you know, for belt and pulley drive. Maybe do a chain drive conversion one day, and you know, I could probably gear it a little better, you know, some better fuel economy at a high speed.
Well, can't you get different pulleys and belts for it that would adjust, or no?
Yeah, not that I've found, man. I don't think anybody's really gearing, you know, bagger Harleys for racing like that.
Yeah, okay.
Not that I've found, anyway, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. I thought they would, it seems like at least when they first came out, you know, with the belt and pulley back, you know, like when I was building choppers in early 2000s, it seems like they had the options for different, you know, counts on the pulleys and stuff you could order. And then I think the belt, I don't remember if you'd actually need different belts or if you just kind of adjust it in your wheelbase or what, but the only belt and pulley bike I ever had was that last Sportster I had, and it was a 2000, and it came with a belt and pulley, and I just kind of cringed a little bit. I'm like, man, I trust a chain, not a belt. And sure as shit, that fucking belt snapped on me out in the middle of somewhere in Jacksonville. And I had to have a buddy come pick me up with his trailer and haul it back. And so I took it all off, put chain and sprocket, and called it a day. And then that obviously gives you real easy flexibility for, you know, adjusting and stuff. Because when I did the BMW, I can't remember what the combo on teeth was, but I ended up going to where I could do 108 in first gear with it, you know, which is super high, but my mileage was still, I think, barely like in the 30s. It wasn't near as, you know, I calculated it was going to be awesome, but, you know, like you say, when you're hauling ass, it's not going to be that good. Yeah.
Really, maybe I'll take my tour back off and put a gas tank there as well.
Yeah.
Sure enough.
That'd probably get you, I mean, you could probably fit another 4 gallons back there on that one.
Yeah, I could probably do more than that. I mean, it's a big, huge box back there.
Yeah.
Big space to fill, you know. I hadn't really measured it or tank on there.
I suppose. I just got this BMW GS 1300 Adventure, and
Cool, man.
yeah, it's so different. I mean, it's not a Harley and it's not a sport bike. It's kind of right in the middle, and it's sure taken some getting used to, trying to, get used to riding the thing. Just because, the fact is, like, I would love to be on a Harley bagger right now, but the tailbone, because of just too many years riding with my feet out in front of me, and it just puts all the pressure on the tailbone. And a lot of those choppers I had were either rigids or a half inch of suspension, and it just, hell, it could have started falling on my ass on my skateboard as a kid for all I know, but the the tailbone just won't tolerate it. So this is taking some. What's up?
Are you taking this new ADV bike like off-roading or what?
I don't really know yet, to be honest. I went in there kind of looking for something that would be a better long distance bike, because the only other, I donated the chopper and the BMW to the museum and the Barber Museum. And so all I have left is the Aprilia, which I love the bike, but it's got maybe 130, 40 gallon range on it, or mile range. And so I looked at Harleys, and like I said, I know that with the feet in front of you, there's no way that the tailbone will tolerate it. So I thought I'll try one of these things, and it's a cool bike. It's even got adaptive cruise control on it, which for a motorcycle, I'm like, that's pretty advanced, right? But it's the first bike I've ever had with hard saddlebags. Even that's just kind of a difference. My old Harley had the bolt-on leather ones that you just bolt into the struts coming out the back, and so it's kind of weird having those. And I told myself I'm not going to order a tour pack because I hate the look of them. Well, now I just ordered a tour pack the other day because I thought, if I do a long drive, it'll be nice to have it and stuff. So I'll get that set up and that. But it's got a 7.9 gallon tank. And so just with the stock tank, it's got better range than my Cadillac does. My Cadillac will be lucky to get, 280, 300 miles, versus the bike, you can get, at least 350 probably out of it. And it's got an eco mode. I haven't really tried to see what kind of range, but, when you're out in the middle of, like, I've gone to Colorado before, hell, you get out in the middle of some of those empty roads and you're just praying the gas station's open sometimes. And I usually carry a couple of fuel bottles in the backpack. So, when you ride, even yours, do you put a couple camping fuel bottles in your saddlebags to give you range if you need?
Actually, I have a little small, red gas jug, and I'll just strap it down to the top of the tour pack. And
okay.
When I was doing my coast to coast trip, I had that, and I planned to do a fuel stop every 350 miles, and my range was just barely getting there. First gas stop, I ran out of gas 2 miles before the exit. Okay.
Oh, really?
I was pulling over on the side of the road, and I had to stop and put this little 1.5 gallon or whatever it is, and
okay,
just give me fuel stop. So, if I had a little more gas, I could have made the range that I anticipated.
Yeah, but you did, kids. See, I was smart to do that, because when I did the cross country, I had my buddy that I called back, Eric, and I was like, okay, here's where I am, and here's, I have given an Excel sheet so he could just plug in numbers and go. But that spot in West Texas, when I got, I'd been blowing by people, I was going like hell, and then next thing I'm almost out of gas, and it's like, I was like, man, I'm gonna end up stranded out in the middle of nowhere, just like you say, 2 miles from it. And it was a pain, because then I had to, stand up like in the movie, or I had to stand up on the pegs that was raining and jiggle that hose because it was under my leg to try to get just a little bit more fuel in. And it was enough to get me to the gas stop, but I was going at 55, getting repassed by all the people I'd just blown by and stuff.
Yeah. And I don't did that with the fuel hose and opening your gas tank while you're underway. I don't think I could have done that.
Well, how did you? So you had fuel pumps in each of your saddlebags that then you just had a button in the dash that you would.
That's a good thing about the Harley. It's got options. You can add buttons to it. So yeah, I wired the fuel pumps into a button on the dash. I had a 1 and a 2, and also plumbed both tanks from the rear end back into the main gas tank. So when I started getting low, just push a button, refill, or.
How'd you do that? Did you have I mean, again, my old ones, I had a vent to like crossover tubes, but I think your bike, is it just one solid tank or is it split fat bobs like the old ones used to be?
It's a solid unvented tank. So when I ride, I would have to just keep the gas cap cracked a little bit. So when I pump it in, it doesn't expand the tank,
Oh, so you didn't somehow plumb it in through a breather line. You actually had the cap open going in.
I don't know what you call it, the bulkhead that sits on top of the tank where your filler neck would be. I drill a hole in it and put a fitting in.
Oh, that's what you did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's all hidden.
I got you. Okay, that's good then. Yeah, because I had to I had my 2 keys and I had them parachute rope tied together so I didn't lose the other, and I had to open it, and then stick it in and turn the valve, but I had more capacity in my backup tank than the main tank, so I couldn't just let it go. I had to let it go for a while and kind of time it and then shut it off and let it run for a while and then redo it. But the new BMW I got, I noticed you couldn't do that with it because the gas cap requires that the bike is off and it's got a sensor to your key fob or whatever. So, you have to have it off. You couldn't do an in-flight fueling without putting a new cap on or something, I guess.
Yeah, and one thing I have found that when I refuel in flight, for some reason, I'll run it down to an eighth of a tank, and I just push a button, fill it back up. It takes forever for the stop fuel register to come back to where it should be. I don't know why, but it does. It doesn't just.
Yeah.
So every time I pick up, I'm like, okay, am I really filling up, or I'm fixing to run out of gas, or what?
Do you have an actual a fuel gauge, like a needle, or is it just a range button? Or
it's a needle, like in your car.
Oh, okay. Well, that should be just a float in your tank, isn't it?
You would think, but it takes forever to come back up. And I mean, my little system works, so I hadn't really explored how to correct that. I don't know. Maybe it's something with the bike needs to be killed and fuel or something. I really don't know.
Okay, because my range calculator will take a while, but it's because it needs data to say I'm going how many miles and this is what I see. It's a bunch of math it's doing, but I would think if it's just a float valve in there, it would be kind of instant response. That's interesting.
It's not. I'm going to say it takes a good 30 minutes for it to register.
30?
Yeah.
Really? Boy, so you don't dare have more in your... Well, how'd you do that then? If you had 9 gallons in the back and only 6 capacity, you had to but you did both at once and just waited a while and shut it off and then...
Yeah. What I would do, I'd probably give it, I got these little Edelbrock fuel pumps on it, okay? And all right, I'm going to time it. I'm going to give it 2 minutes worth of pump time and, whatever that gets me. And then I could normally get a couple of times like that, filling up before I would drain one tank and then I'd go to the other side and drain up the tank.
Huh. Yeah, that's about, because you don't want to overflow and then you're pissing gas down the road and stuff.
And I have done that before. Like I say, I leave my gas cap a little cracked, to give it some vent.
Yeah.
And I have overloaded it pumping into it like that. Gas.
Yep, gotta love that. How fast, top speed of that bike, could you get out of that thing?
Man, my bike is completely bone stock other than this fuel setup I put on it, okay? Which is great because it's very reliable and dependable.
Sure.
But it's going to top out around 110.
110? Okay. Yeah, and that's...
And I can cruise comfortably at about 100,
Right. So it's interesting that you ended up setting the record like that because, there were bursts I was doing up to 160 plus, right?
Yep.
And you just must have had to be just steady all the way because for every time, if I would have been maxed out at that speed, I wouldn't have even made the speed I did because I got through, all the south. Did you go from Florida to Texas, California, or did you go the other way?
west from Jacksonville to California.
Okay, so you went east to west, all right. Because like coming across, I could fly all the way through Texas. It was once I got to Houston, and then everything after Houston, my radar detector was going off like crazy. So I could barely get any, 70s, 80 if I was lucky, just because, getting pulled over is going to be bad, especially with an extra fuel tank very obviously back there and a 45 on you and everything. It just isn't going to look good. So,
I think what won it for me, isn't the fact that, I can do 160, 180. It's just that I stayed steady with it. My brakes were like my brakes were literally sitting on the bike, gas in the tank and 3 tanks and leaving. Right. I pitched twice during the whole trip, once in Lafayette, once in somewhere Arizona. So,
did you do the condom catheter too, or did you actually use a bathroom?
No, I actually run in the store right quick and use the bathroom. Dude, let me tell you, when I was pretty dehydrated when I got, out to the west side of the country in Arizona. I'm like, all right, Jake, you just gotta this fuel stop. And I went in there and took a leak, man, and my urine was brown.
Yeah. Yep. I know what you mean. Yep. So did you not have a Camelback for fluids on the way?
I had a back seat with a cooler back there, so I just reached back, a lot of waters,
Oh.
But I didn't pack any. Actually, I packed some sandwiches I was able to eat while I was riding,
Did you eat? You did eat while you were riding?
Oh, yeah. I do that all the time. But,
oh, wow.
But, yeah.
Geez, I had one beef jerky. I had one Slim Jim in like East Texas somewhere, and that's all I had, just because I didn't want to have to shit myself in that diaper. That was like the main logic for not doing it. But the condom catheter, I think I made it 700 miles before I had to piss. And like you said, it was like acid, and then when I got to East Texas, I actually went into a store because I thought I've got to be out of my 3 liters of fluid, a Gatorade and Red Bull. I went in, and when I looked, I maybe drank a liter of fluid that whole way, and I'm like, oh, this isn't going to go well, and so it's, not easy on your body, to say the least.
But yeah, I really think that's what got it for me is I pushed my bike 95, 100 nearly the whole way, but my brakes were really, really short.
Yeah, and mine were pretty short too, I didn't even go, well, it was just that one place in East Texas is the only one I actually went into the store. Everything else was just cart at the pump and, piss out the catheter out the leg while I was standing there and gas up and go.
Well, like I told you earlier, it's you guys' stories that, kind of helped me get through it. I could, take a little from yours, and what really got it, I started getting in heavy research in it, and I found Greg Rice. I don't know if you look at his, he's got a, page and everything, but he's got all kind of stories about different rides he's done. And he did this coast to coast story.
Yeah.
And like I'm clicking along, clocking through here. I stopped in Texas to get a hamburger, and it took me 30 minutes. I'm like, hey.
You did? Or he did, or?
Greg Rice did.
Oh, he did?
He stopped in, yeah. And that's he wrote it in his story that he stopped in Texas and got a burger somewhere, and it took too long. And, and I was like, well, if I don't stop for this hamburger, I could probably do it.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest things for, to improve on is to be able to, just minimize your stops. The fact that you could go 350 miles as opposed to if you're pulling over every 100 miles or something. And I know when I did the interview with vinwiki, I made a comment about how the fuel stops ended up costing you 25 minutes at least every time. And a bunch of people are like, oh, it doesn't take 25 minutes to fill your gas. And it's like, well, no, but by the time you get off of an exit, you slow down, you get to the exit, you're probably going to catch at least a light or two, and depending on how far in town, and then by the time you get off and do everything and you got to hook up everything back again, you're easily losing 25 minutes versus if you were just flowing straight through it,
Yeah, that's when you're trying to figure your average speed. That's when you need to stop the clock. When you put your blinker on, getting ready to get off, that's your time off your run.
Exactly.
I think my average was 83, 84 miles an hour, which doesn't sound maintain that with your fuel stops is rolling pretty good for a Harley.
It is, yeah. I think my average was like 76 and change, if I remember right. So yours wasn't, I'm surprised, yours was only 80 something, because your time was what again? It was under 28 hours, wasn't it?
No, it was 28 hours and 28 minutes.
28, okay. And mine was 33:10. So I guess that's probably about right, about the percentages. What was it, 2,408 miles, I think, or something like that it took?
Yep.
Something like that. Because you ended up, same place I did, Dog Beach out there in San Diego, right? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. And then Jacksonville, you started the same, like 16th Avenue, was it, or whatever, by the tennis courts?
It's on 3rd and I don't know how to pronounce this. Osceola or Osceola, little gated gas station. Yeah, a gas station out there.
Was it a BP?
No, it was a gate gas station. It was on the A1A and Osceola.
Osceola? I'd have to look that up. I can't even think of where. I thought I ended up at 16th or so. I can't remember what number. It was some. It was like A1A, and then I turned on whatever street it was right by those tennis courts, because I think I'd mapped it in advance, and that was like the first street I could really get a straight shot to the ocean with, coming off A1A, north of it. And but there was a BP station, I think, right there that's no longer there. So it was probably gone, to be honest, by the time you went through there. But there was probably a gate across. Excuse me?
What year did you do?
I did it in 14, April of 2014. Yeah. So that gas station I know has been gone for a while, where I turned out and stuff. But yeah, it's been, in fact, like the other day, it was just 11 years, I figured it'd been since doing that. But back when I was young, 40 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, well, that's cool. And then you had radar, I assume, on it, V1 or something?
I run the Valentine one, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. How did you end up doing, did you use your V1 purely visual, or did you have like the little LEDs or a Bluetooth in your helmet, or?
So, you can't hear it, but it's got a little beat to it, but when you're in the wind, you really can't hear it. So I got to watch the little LED bars on it, and I know, I see a couple of bars, I'm probably okay, but eventually it'll start going crazy, and you back it off a little bit,
Yeah, exactly. Because what I ended up getting for the Aprilia, there's his name Mark Harms or something, that Parms, maybe he makes this little gadget. So like on the Aprilia, it's mounted off the stem, because I don't have any room on the handlebars or anything, so it's stem mounted. But when you're tucked, it's under you literally, and so you get these little LED things that mount. It's not terribly expensive, but I just stuck them to the top of the dash so that when I'm tucked, I can see them, and they're real bright. So even in the daytime, they'll flash nice and bright for you. In theory, my app also will Bluetooth to the Senna. I don't know, do you run a Senna on yours, or? No,
I don't. I got the stock Harley comms is what I run,
Oh, but does it have Bluetooth that you can put music to and stuff?
But by wire, plugs into the bike.
It's what now?
I said it's comm by wire. It plugs into the bike.
Oh.
That's not a Bluetooth system at all.
Oh, okay. So you don't have music the whole time you're doing this?
Yeah, I do have music, though.
Oh, because you have a radio on the bike. Duh. Okay.
Speakers. Yeah, I've got all those.
That's right. I'm not used to seeing a radio on a bike, but yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
But I can take phone calls if I need to, and do a little speech to text if I need to.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, this Senna, like when you use the app on the phone, it'll, in theory, if it's all set up right, it'll actually beep through, like the Bluetooth on the phone will talk to the radar detector, and then when the radar has an alert, it'll beep through your phone, but it's always kind of a pain getting all the audio stacking or whatever the hell they call it set right. But when it's working right, it's good. And at night, it's not too bad with the visuals, but during the day, sometimes it's hard to see those alerts with just the V1. Because I just did it on my on this BMW. I just mounted it too, and it's like, yeah, even with it being out in my vision range, I still may put those little LEDs across the top just to give a little bit more visual. Because I had those in. Have you ever been out to like Estes Park, Colorado area or anything?
Yeah, I've made a short little run through Colorado, like Durango,
Oh, okay.
Highway around the Pikes Peak, you know.
Oh, okay.
And then, yeah.
Okay, so my sister lives in Loveland, so I would go up there and then ride up Trail Ridge and all that. And on the way down from like Estes Park to the dam store, it's like, I don't know, 25, 30 miles, whatever. And I averaged, I just ripped down there on the Aprilia, and I got to the bottom of the dam store, and I was like looking at the computer, and I was like, hell yeah, I averaged like 62 on these windy roads, and my top speed was 132. So I was pretty excited about hitting that, because there's not much straightaways, right? That's flying. And I suppose because I was screwing around with that stupid computer, I come up over a crest, fucking there's a cop, Larimer County got me when the cherries came on, and fortunately he only got me doing 88 and a 55, but it could have been a lot worse. But even with the radar in that, I'm like, how the hell did I miss that? And I suppose it's just because I was screwing with the computer, bragging about how fast I'd gone, and he nailed me.
If I could get that beat to come through my radio speakers on the Harley, man, I would love that. I haven't looked into it,
Yeah, that's the thing, is all these electronics, I mean, the capabilities are there, but, I don't use tools like that near to the extent, right? Like this thing will do so much more than I'm doing with it. I just try to get it good enough to work for what I need, right? And there's an app called JBV1 or something app for droids that talks to the Valentine, and it's really advanced, and you can set sweeps and all this other fancy stuff. I usually figure out enough to just make it so that it beeps in my helmet, and that's done, but I'm still working on it because I just got this all set up. I tried one of those, it's called an iLights, and it's a heads-up display in your helmet.
Yeah.
And I've kind of mixed feelings on it. I was used to the Senna, which, is just the audio. And so I tried this thing. In fact, there was a company called Scully that made a whole helmet with the HUD in it. And I told them, hey, I've got this big project, the ride coming up, and if you sign an NDA with me, I'll use it and put it in the movie and everything. And they kept screwing around, so I was like, whatever, I just set up the Senna and whatever instead. And at the last, like literally the week before my ride, they said, okay, we're ready to sign the NDA. And I'm like, too late now, I got something else, So anyway, I bought this iLights, and you remember the Google Glass that had that little prism kind of thing?
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. It's a helmet, but you have to install this little prism, and it's kind of cool that you can see the little Google map up in your, the corner of your eye while you're driving. But the problem is, like, the battery only lasts like maybe 2 hours versus the Senna. I can get like 8 or 10 hours at least out of that. And the audio just isn't as good as the Senna, and it's kind of like, it's a cool feature, but at the end of the day, it's got to be practical. And if it's just an annoyance because the battery's dead and stuff, it doesn't do you much good,
And being on a motorcycle, it's got to be reliable,
It's got to.
Or you on two wheels,
Yeah, exactly. Do you have one of the full open face helmets, or do you have just
a visor helmet, full face helmet.
Full face, okay. My buddies went to these that have the whole face flips up, and I'm like, I just can't bring myself to one of those.
No, I run the LS2 carbon fiber.
Oh, okay.
Nice helmet.
Yeah, I've tried Shoeies are what I've used for quite a few years now, but because I needed something that would work for a Texas Mile. They require that Snell rating, And one year I made the mistake of getting I think it was called a GT Air Showy, but it had the drop down sun visor inside. And so I thought, well, that'll be nice for out in the hill country when you're riding at dawn or something. So I bought it. Well, then I tried to go to Texas Mile or race day out here, and they said, nope, if you have that inside deal, it makes it not Snell rated, and they wouldn't let me use it. Yeah. And I was like, well, damn it. I didn't realize that. And so, I would have just thought, any good helmet would have this rating, but they said, nope, not good enough. And so that was the helmet I was wearing when I killed that deer out north of town with the Aprilia. And so it smashed that helmet. So the problem got solved that way. I guess I went and bought a Snell rated one after that.
There you go. Yeah,
that was kind of an eye opener, hitting a damn 7-point buck out there, center punching it with a bike. That's 99.9% fatal wreck, I think, that I walked away from. What's that?
How fast were you going?
Probably in the 130-40 range. I never even hit the brakes. I mean, because it was 6 in the morning or whatever. It was pitch black out, and I came around a turn, so I was, it was a sport bike, so I was hanging off, and as soon as I started straightening out in the turn, I started cranking it, and I was tucked and going, and I didn't see, being raised in Iowa, we were always trained to look for deer, and you look for their eyes glowing and everything, and I'm pretty good at it, but this thing, I didn't see shit until he was like 2 feet in front of my headlight in mid-spring, and never hit the brakes. Thank goodness I didn't sit up, because it probably would have snapped my neck, but he smashed the headlight, and then he went over, and it grazed my helmet enough that it jarred my jaw shut. And I thought at first I was going to keep it upright. And as soon as I got through him, there's like that split second, and then all hell broke loose. And I went ragdolling down the highway. And, when I finally came to, I was, laying on the grass, and I could see my bike sliding another 50 feet down the road in the grass. But I was able to get it up, and I had to kick it like hell to get into neutral, and then I tried starting it, and eventually it started, and it was all broke and grass hanging out everywhere, and all the lights were broke except I had like one blinker on a mirror, so I had that on because I thought I don't want a truck to run me over, now kill me in that way. So I just creeped along at like 20 mile an hour for the whatever half-hour drive home, and made it home. I still made my date with that hot Russian chick in Austin that afternoon, but I tell you, every hour that went by, something new hurt for about a week, though. Yeah. That was rough.
You're fortunate to survive that.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a fatal wreck. Even, Dad used to raise hell on his Harley in the old days too, and when I was talking to Mom, she said, she goes, normally when I tell your dad some of your nonsense that you do, he just kind of rolls his eyes. But when I told him this, she said he just shook his head. He said that kid should be dead. And I said, yeah, that's a fatal wreck every day, But I think because he was in the air, if he'd been standing on the ground, it probably would have been a lot worse. Or maybe just going that fast was enough to, kind of go through it. But I went back later, a couple hours later in the car, and I found like pieces of my bike laying out there, and I found that it was a 7-point buck laying on the shoulder over there. Damn. But that was the third deer in 3 years I killed, 2 with cars, and then 1 with that bike. Jeez. But I used to love going for those early morning drives in the dark, but that kind of changed my opinion on that a little bit. Now I usually wait till after dawn at least. Yeah. Have you done any lighting to your bike for night riding or anything, or?
No, sir. It's I would like to at some point do like some engine guard, auxiliary lighting. But it's got the day makers on it, so it's like a
Does it? So you've got like my old FLH. You got the big one and then the 2 spotlights, probably, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and those seem to be good enough. You feel comfortable able to do that?
They're good. It could be better. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll put some auxiliary, lights down lower so I can see
Yeah.
out there a little bit.
Right.
So,
And you've got enough, you said you've got like auxiliary switches up there that make it pretty easy to tap into the power for you and stuff on that bike.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That helps a lot too. Yeah. Yeah. These newer, what's
I
that?
could easily put some in. I just haven't done it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause that's one thing I noticed when I took the BMW out to Colorado and was coming back, 1, 2 in the morning. And, I was doing well over 100 and I missed a deer carcass by probably like a foot, and I was past the thing before I even hardly saw it. And I was like, damn, and that's what got me looking for like the thermal vision and putting the FLIR on and stuff. Cause if you're doing over 100, and of course sport bikes, they're not tour bikes. They're made to go around a track, not be out on 2-lane highways at 3 a.m, going 140 or something. So, they're just not made for it. But I thought, the FLIR is the only way I'm going to be able to manage going that kind of speed and be able to have any chance of avoiding animals and stuff.
That's right. And what kind of display did you have with that FLIR?
So for when I had it on the BMW, it was a screen that came with the FLIR kit from whoever distributor I ordered it. So you had the Pathfinder camera, and it was all self-contained in that weatherproof casing. So I just mounted that. I think I had a standoff like for the mirror and put it on there. And then it was hardwired to this screen, and they made a waterproof, weatherproof one. But I thought, it's going to be kind of contained within, close. So I basically put it right on the tank, on the top of the tank. But it was, like I said, just a little screen that came with the kit. But the problem with it is when you're looking at that, you're not looking ahead of you, right? So you almost have to just focus on, you got to get used to it. It's like a pilot trusting his instruments. You just have to get used to like, hey, I have to trust this and not worry about looking at the road, which is, when you're doing a $160 in pitch black, it's just one of those things. Gotta kind of use the force. Now, I put the 2 FLIRs and the 2 cars, and I have like a lock key or pick lock, whatever they call them, device, so that the FLIR will show on the nav screen of the cars. The way I'm going to do it for the BMW, I've got a new camera that's a lot smaller than those big old Pathfinders, but it's not weatherproof. So I have to design and make a little shell for it that's weatherproof. And then obviously the front, you have to have an IR penetrable screen, because if you just put glass over it, it won't see through it, right? So it's got to be an IR screen. So I have to design an enclosure, build that. And then what I've got for it is a Wi-Fi generator. So it'll be wired to Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi will send a signal to the phone, and then I'll have the FLIR vision on my phone. So that's why I got the Garmin for the BMW to set up here for nav. I'll have the radar detector, and then the phone is there separate. But I wanted to use, I didn't want to use this for nav because I want to be able to wait and have the FLIR going to this. So I still have a long ways to go, obviously, but I'm going to try to do a big ride in June once I get a break after doctor appointments for a while. Try to do a big ride. So ideally I'll have it done by then, but if I don't, I'll do it for the next one, I guess. But that's kind of what I'd like to do. But I just feel a lot better having it. As you get older, seeing at night is harder too than 10 years ago, and stuff. So makes it tough too, but
you see a lot of deer out on the interstate at night, and I love to ride like through the night, midnight to morning, and I always check up when I see the eyes on the side of the interstate, but they're not real bad about it. It's like they're just content to be on the side of the road, eat grass,
Interstate, I really have little problems on interstate with. But I've seen, where the hell was I not terribly long ago? Coming back from Colorado, I think, and there's a damn cow right on the shoulder on the interstate, which surprised me. I mean, I've seen them on, in Colorado, I've gotten around on some of those ranch roads, like by Buckhorn and stuff. And I remember coming around a turn and I saw cow shit on the road. And I'm like, well, there's only one thing that makes cow shit. And sure enough, I came around the next turn and there was a cow sitting right there in the road, you know. I'm like, because it's open range or whatever. And I'm like, geez. But yeah, interstate. But, you know, just in Texas around this area, you see deer on the side of the interstate all the time. So they are on the interstate, but most places you won't see them so much. But even like, you know, raccoons, I had a raccoon jump out in front of me on the old BMW outside of town in the morning. And it was big enough that he probably would have been over the center of my axle where it would have, you know, like a squirrel you can run over, right? But a big coon, you're going to hit it. It's not going to be good. And he came tearing out and I was in a turn and I thought, well, I didn't want to just brake because I've seen so many animals that'll turn tail at the last second and screw you. So I just gassed it harder and leaned more, and I got right in front of him and I missed him with the tire, but he hit my oil cooler and tore all the plastic off the belly, and it was just all blood and fur down there. But I kept it upright at least. Just had to go home and change my shorts after that one. But yeah, we got armadillos, and then of course you always got, you know, turkey vultures will be out in the middle of the road with their kill. You got to watch for them. And so there's plenty of things out there to screw a guy on two wheels for sure. Yeah. Do you carry any kind of like the tire flat fix-it tools and stuff, or?
Well, I absolutely do now. But when I did the coast-to-coast run, you know, I carry a little toolkit, but never, you know, a pump and plugs, you know. But I was coming through Sonora, Texas. Anyway, I started messing with my buttons on my handlebars, checking my tire pressure and all. The lights wasn't off, but I noticed one of them was low. And so I get off at this truck stop and noticed a nail in my tire.
Ooh.
And cost me about 30 minutes on my run trying to go inside buy a plug, find a compressor to air it back up.
Yeah.
But now I will not ride without a compressor and a plug kit for sure.
Yeah. That's one thing that I got years ago. It's just one of those where I think it's got like kind of almost like a bastard file or a rat tail file that you kind of chew it up with, and then you've got the fork that you put the tar piece in and stuff. But I mean, hell, that Aprilia, when I got it, I got a flat. I mean, hell, I didn't have 500 miles on it, I think, and I was damn glad I had that kit to be able to fix it. And then, you know, otherwise I would have had to trash a brand new tire, basically. But I've got one of those. The compressor's only about yay big with a little hose, and usually I try to carry that if I go in any kind of distance, or I just, you know, because like you say, if you plug it, that's fine, but if you don't have any air in it, you're still kind of screwed, you know. Right. So
yeah, well, that's kind of like what my little compressor is. It's a little black box about like that, you know. Yeah. And not something you want to use in your shop, but on the side of the road, you know, I'm thankful to have it.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it's even shown, you know, for me, like out here, you know, the 911's got a tire that every once in a while will be a couple pounds low, and you know, it's easier than firing up the big compressor and stretching the hose out and everything to just take that little guy and, you know, air it up a little bit. It's just super convenient, especially for like, you know, Texas Mile or the track or anything, because those events, you might have to sit there and screw with your pressures up and down trying to find, you know, like Texas Mile is really specific. Like you got to have low enough pressure to get grip on the takeoff, but you need high pressure to be, you know, minimum drag and everything and friction going down the strip. But if it's too high, then it's so damn bumpy, you're about ready to fly off the thing. And so it's a little bit of an art to it.
That's right. And what was your top speed at the mile?
The top one I did the last time was 198.4 in 1 mile.
That's breaking, man.
Yeah, it was almost frustrating because it was so close to 200 without being 200, and man, I wanted that 200 in the worst way, you know, but it was like perfect conditions. The wind, it was a tailwind of 25 mile an hour. And I mean, I'd done everything. I'd lowered it, full body kit. I had I had $100,000 in that bike by the time I got rid of it, you know, and so I did everything to it, made it down there. I got my 198.4, and I thought, you know, that's time to retire. I'm never going to beat that again because there's no way I can make up for a 25-mile-an-hour tailwind, and it'll probably never happen again, you know, at just those conditions. But I did it for 10 years. It was a lot of fun just trying to do your little mods and see what you can do, but it becomes where it's such a specific deal. Like if you have to lower it and all the body stuff in that, well, now it's not rideable for the track, you know, and if I want something I can take to Circuit of the Americas for a track day, well, you're not going to have an extended swing arm and look like a Hayabusa going around there or something silly. But it was, you know, I had a lot of fun with the bike over the years for sure, you know. I mean, Circuit of the Americas is a fun track to ride on it, and, you know, I got to where I think I was hitting like a 51-degree lean angle on it, and, you know, so you're literally further over than up, and got to where I could drag a knee, you know, so I got a knee puck all scuffed up. I'm like, all right, that was a decent goal for a street rider. But have you had to like mess with the engine or do much really for work on this one or anything, or?
I'm telling you, man, I know it's boring, but it's a completely bone stock bike. My little fueling system and a couple of, you know, highway pegs is the only thing I put on it.
That's the smart way to do it, though. I mean,
well, but hey, man, I got a bunch of friends that ride now in the motor mods and things like that, but they're always telling me about how much trouble they're having with it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so I mean, stock vehicle runs the longest, it seems like, and that's what I need.
Yeah, and you're not, you know, it was different for me, I guess, on like when I did the cross-country ride, I think the only thing I'd done was change the sprocket and chain just to get, I might have gone to the 520 lighter weight and then changed the ratio. But other than that, I don't think I'd even done the carbon fiber wheels. Maybe the exhaust, I did the titanium exhaust or something on it. But, you know, after that is when you start doing more like racing applications where you're trying to squeeze every pound off. I think I took 40 pounds off that bike total over the years. And, you know, but yeah, the minute you crack that engine open and start fucking with it like I did, then you might as well just pour your money down the drain, you know. It's so problematic.
You know, it's okay if you know that's what you want, but I'd rather have a dependable bike because I like to travel.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yep, and especially for what you're doing, you want reliability. You know, you're not concerned about getting there and making 150 mile an hour or anything like that. Right. But
it was fast enough to beat a record. And I'm sad that, and I can still on long trips, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's unfortunately just always been my tendency is I can't leave things stock. I always got to screw with them. And then every time you do, you always regret it, you know, because then later shit's breaking and stuff. And like, God damn, if I would have just left it alone, it would have been fine, right? But, you know, and nowadays, you know, even with like this new BMW, my norm was like, oh, I'll design my own bracket and get prototypes made and get them machined and all that for the radar mount. And it's like, no, Quad Lock makes a perfectly good product. Buy the Quad Lock, bolt it on, and just be done with it. Don't screw with it, you know. So trying to be a little bit more efficient about that stuff and that. But and there's still, you know, I mean, there's things like people can put different exhaust on them if they want a different sound or this, that, and the other without really messing with the engine, you know. And I've never had a fuel injected sport like chopper or Harley. They've always been just carbureted, but I don't imagine there's really a lot a guy can do with that. I don't know if they make even like new programs. Like, could you buy a new ECU that would like performance? But you
can do that. You can have it tuned, you know, take it to somebody, have it tuned if you like. Do pipes or whatever you want to do to it.
Yeah. But then you're probably hurting your mileage. That isn't going to, you know, really what you're trying to do isn't that. You don't keep that secondary fuel system, I assume, when you're doing all your little trips around your area, you've got it back to just stock tank, I assume.
Well, if I go out by myself, you know, normally I would put the tanks on.
Oh, will you? Okay.
Okay. Because I still got work on my tour pack. back, you know, and I like to go camping when I go out on rides like that. So
Okay.
I'll put on but you know, if I'm gonna be riding with friends or something, I probably won't have the tanks on because I mean they can't make the range get out, and so I'll be stopping with them anyway, you know.
Okay.
Like, we just got back from Key West.
Yeah, I saw that.
I didn't ride with my tanks on just because you know I went with some buddies and
Sure.
they on the same bike I am. We'll have to stop all at the same time, you know.
Yeah, doesn't do as much good. Yeah, like when Pickering and I rode to Daytona Beach from here, he had that night train and I had that chopper, and that chopper was a 2.1 liter, 2 liter engine or something ridiculous, and it was it was a fun bike. It had plenty of power, it went like hell, but it had those big open pipes on it, so I couldn't even get it to run right at first. I ended up having to put flexible baffles in to give it a little back pressure because at idle it just wouldn't run, and that's the way a lot of those Harleys are. You need some back pressure if you're not just a drag bike or something. But then I ended up doing like a triple X carb thing where they actually have your main jet, your intermediate jet, and they put another jet circuit between the two. So it makes it go like hell, but boy, you talk about thirsty, I had a bigger tank than Pick, and when he was about half a tank, I was usually starting to sputter and flip to reserve, and we'd have to pull over, and that's gets a little...
How big that bike?
What's that?
How much gas could you put on that bike?
The chopper?
Yeah.
I think I got 6-gallon tank for it, but it was a little bit... I think the angle it sat where the petcock was, it seemed like there was a little bit more, it wasn't like a nice flat bottom with a petcock right at the low point, like on the old Harley. This one, it was, you had your tunnel, but the way the petcock sat in it and the way the angle, because it had a little bit of a rise to the frame, I think there was always a bit of gas left there that you weren't quite using too. So combine that with the fact that, it was always going wide open and that thing just sucked her down, too. So, but, it was a big engine and it'd go like hell, it was fun for that. But, I was actually just happy as hell. I made it even to Daytona Beach on that chopper because a lot of choppers, they're just, they're not made at Harley in a factory where they test 1,000 of them. They're just one at a time. Let's see how it goes, right? And but I think we had to haul them back, and ultimately what was wrong with mine is the alternator is what had failed. So out there in Florida, I replaced the battery. I can't remember if I replaced the starter. I don't think the starter, but the battery, the key switch, the relays and stuff, and it ultimately ended up being the actual alternator that was bad. So we got to ride back in a truck instead. But so I don't blame you a bit for leaving your bike as is. And in fact, like this BMW, I can't help myself, right? Like I get it and I'm like, oh, I could do these, I could do carbon wheels, and I could do the titanium exhaust. And it's like, no, you've already sunk enough into the bike. Just enjoy it. BMW did a good job. Just ride it and enjoy it. So that's kind of what I intend to do with this one too. But yeah, so you do quite a bit of riding. You put on a lot of miles just since doing your cross country ride, it looks like. And
I do. I like to do, some iron butt type rides.
Yeah.
Normally it works out for me, because like there'll be something 1,000 miles away I just want to go see, so I just do a quick iron butt. I say quick iron butt there. But
yeah.
That's quick, but so I'll travel a lot doing that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I see on the socials they're making, like I saw when you went to Key West and that, and I was like, it's good to see you out there. It's kind of like, fuck was that guy's name? Who's the guy that did the last Cannonball that set that record? I think he's from Dallas or something. I don't remember his name, but
Ernest.
Who is it?
Is it Bo Ernest?
Might be. I don't remember his name, but he's the last guy to do it was about the same time probably that you did your record, but he did the Cannonball.
Right.
What's that?
You're talking about motorcycle, right?
Motorcycle Cannonball, yeah.
There was an Alex Jones.
Alex Jones. I think Alex Jones is who I'm thinking of. But if
He was great.
if it seems like it, I thought I read where he's not really a bike guy. He just like bought a motorcycle, went out and broke the record, and then I think he sold the bike afterwards, you know, and it's like, I mean, he did it, hats off to him, you know, but it's kind of one of those things like you'd rather see somebody, like I like seeing you do it, but then you're like riding and still doing a lot of miles, you know, and seeing him do it as a non-bike guy it's kind of like passing a Volkswagen Bug on the highway. Like you just expect and you want to see a hot little college girl driving it, and when it's a dude, it's like physically it's possible. That's not what I'd expect, right? To see that.
Oh man, my hat's off to Alex. You know, he's done a big thing, but he has been beaten since. Yeah.
Oh, he has really.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
Man, I'm probably wrong. Check me on this, but a guy named Bo Ernest did that cannonball run on a motorcycle.
Oh, how long ago was that?
Man, I'm gonna guess. I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, somewhere there. You can look it up. But
because I thought Alex did it just about the time you were breaking yours, right?
Yeah, it wasn't. We was right there somewhere together, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay, that's wild. Yeah, and then you did a vinwiki interview, I think, after, like when you had broke yours with Ed. Yeah,
I did.
That's right.
I got done with my trip, and I'm like, okay, who's ever gonna know about this? So, I reached out to you, Greg Rice, Piper, and Ed Bullion. I'm like, hey, I did this just because I'd seen your videos.
Yeah.
I reached out to him. And like he immediately responded and said, hey, I'm having a group of people over the house Saturday. Can you be there? We'll do an interview. I'm like,
awesome.
I'm there.
Yeah, he's a good guy too. I like Ed. He's
super nice, man. Super nice guy.
Very nice guy. He's got I love his garage, man. Just seeing the way he's got it laid out with all his toys in there, I'm like, man, that's a nice garage.
Man, he opened the door with his Lambos in there. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Nice. Yep. Yeah, he's got quite a deal out there. But now it's pretty cool to see somebody like him that's, did a cannonball, but turned that into like, it's his full-time gig now, is just doing car stuff and having fun and makes a good living and has his toys doing it. And that's, when I saw like Alex Roy is who I'd read his book and watched his movie and stuff, and where I kind of started getting the idea for it. And, but you'd see like Alex Roy was on Dave Letterman, I think, right? And I'm like, how the fuck did he get, like he took it, and he was the first one to do a cannonball, like kind of out in the open, right? I mean, because it'd been years since whatever the last guys had done their time, whatever. And, but he really made a big deal as far as publicity on it and all this. And I'm like, so when I did mine, I thought, okay, well, I reached out to Alex and he told me get a hold of Ed because Ed might have you do an interview and stuff. And I didn't really know much about Ed at the time. So I did that, but I tried doing, press releases to everywhere I could, like Jalopnik and all this other stuff. And Wired, I thought the technology on it. I did a human performance presentation at a military health conference in Lauderdale. Just like, hey, as long as I already did this silly stuff, I might as well see if there's anything they can benefit from what I learned, about sleep and caffeine and hydration and all this. And so I went through all that, but, it just never really, I don't know, it's like I still got a day job. I still had to have a day job, it wasn't getting there. And I thought, well, make the movie, because the movie is at least kind of, I had the book and did the soundtrack in the movie. And at some point it's like, well, it was fun. I didn't do it to get rich and famous. I did it for fun, and that's the right reasons anyway, so.
That's what I've learned too, man. There's no trophy at the end of it, It's just,
there's not.
If you want to do it. If you want to do it for recognition, you're probably not going to get too much of it,
No.
Do what you love.
Yeah, and unfortunately the only recognition a guy usually gets is from the law enforcement, and that's what you're trying to avoid anyway.
It was funny when I did the vinwiki thing at Bowling. He said, well, why did you reach out to me? I said, because anybody who's anybody and what what I did had the video with you. That's why. You know?
Did Andrew ever do one with him?
No, he didn't. It's not that I haven't found one, though. Hey, Bo Ernest has got one. You need to check that out.
Say that again?
Bo Ernest, the guy that's got the current Cannonball record. Yeah, check him out. He's got a vinwiki video.
Okay. I remember seeing that one. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. But yeah, I mean that's why Alex pointed me to him too, is he said anything to do with like cannonballs and stuff, and it's almost surprising, especially during COVID, where there was no cops and no traffic on the road, and people were flying, and you didn't have a cannonball record for more than a few months before somebody would, you know, topple you, right, and beat it. And you know, and for Ed to keep putting them out there and everything, it's just surprising that somebody hasn't raised holy hell saying, why, you know, I'm happy with it, but I'm just surprised the do-gooders haven't gotten out there raising holy hell about how can you rationalize or justify this behavior and stuff. But
read the comments, man. I love to read their comments. There's a lot of people that do not like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there are. Even on Ed's channel, right? And Ed's is pretty much car-friendly people and stuff. But yeah, there's definitely a few people that just think it's bad behavior or whatever. But you know, the reality is the times in my life I've gotten in wrecks, like I've totaled 2 cars, you know, and 1 bike. So I guess the bike maybe doesn't back it up, but like the 2 cars I totaled, they weren't sports cars that I was driving fast. They were just a normal passenger sedan, and because I wasn't driving fast, I wasn't paying much attention for cops and all this stuff, and you know, fucking around, not paying attention, and that's why I totaled them, you know. But usually when I'm driving fast, you're paying really close attention, so you're more likely to avoid a wreck and be safer, actually. But you know, and when I was doing my ride, I, you know, try to make sure that when you pass somebody, you always wave and put your blinkers on and be polite and slow down to, you know, reasonable speed. So I'd go around semis about maybe 20 mile an hour faster than them, and then once I got in front, put the blinker on, wave, and then hammer it and go. Just because you don't want to be an asshole on the road, you know, that doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got any big rides planned then coming up, or you just kind of?
I got something coming up here in May. I don't really want to talk about it just yet. It's not. I'm gonna help a friend out with a big ride, you know.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. You know? But yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, yeah. You just kind of, when you do things like Key West and that, you kind of do it almost on the spur of the moment kind of thing, and just.
Yeah, a couple weeks plans for the moment. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
But I'm sure I'll do a lot more traveling and camping in the future because it's kind of what I like to do, you know.
Yeah, that's good, man. Yeah. Well, hopefully, like I said, I'll be, if I can I got doc appointments all through May, so I'm hoping by June I've got my tour case in and I can get the bike ready, and Florida's one of the first places I intend to go and see that buddy of mine in New Orleans and stuff, and you're in Mississippi, so I'll just try to kind of, when I'm getting ready to schedule, I'll let you know, and hopefully we can meet around there somewhere anyway in the vicinity and stuff. I don't know, how far are you north of, like Biloxi, Mississippi is where I go through, but how are you north of that somewhere, I guess?
Yeah, so you'll be coming through I-10.
Yeah.
And closest place I'm to there is Hammond, Louisiana.
Hammond?
That's an hour.
Oh, an hour from I-10? It's real close then, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I travel long distance, so the time's nothing.
Oh, okay. Okay, sounds good. Well, I'll definitely give you a holler before I get headed that way, and hopefully meet up in person anyway and stuff. But it's been good talking to you finally, you know, all this time, and congratulations again. Still the king, man. That's awesome. Enjoy it while it lasts. All right, take care, brother. Good talking to you.